Welcome back to the Unsensible podcast. Here we discover the unconventional journeys of Asian founders reshaping our world. I'm your host, Karis. I'm really excited about today's story because I'm a huge fan of the brand and the product. And while it's not a usual tech story, it's a perfect example of how clever design can change the world. Our guest today is Denise Ho, founder of KITDO. After 18 years as a fashion stylist, she spotted an opportunity for innovation in something as simple as a safety pin. She shows us that transformative ideas don't always come from complex technology. Sometimes, all it takes is a fresh perspective on everyday problems. Welcome, Denise. So happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Before we dive into your creation, KITDO, I want to take our listeners back to the start. So tell us about your journey before KITDO.
I went to Rhode Island School of Design and I graduated with apparel design. Yeah, after graduation, I decided to move to New York, have a little bit of taste of the fashion industry in America. And so I started interning with a designer. I definitely learned a lot working in the designer studio space. It was very helpful down the line as an entrepreneur too, because working with a small brand especially, you have to do everything. I remember the amount of huge rolls of fabric that I had to carry to Midtown to bring it to the production house was like super physical. People think like, oh, designers just work in the studio and they sketch all day and do fittings, but it was quite a physical work. And you've seen like Devils Wear Prada. It was very much me. There was a lot of the running of the errands and, walking the dogs and things like that. So I started from the ground up, I would say. And then so after 2 years of New York of working in the studio, I just wanted to try a very different environment. So London was an easy access because obviously everyone spoke English and it's a fashion city. So I moved there. I made sure I went out and meet people. So I got really lucky. One girl that I met couldn't go to a stylist assistant gig. So I filled in her spot, and the stylist I was assisting, her name is Sarah Richardson. And at that time, she's one of the cool London stylists working for ID magazine. She really taught me everything that I needed to know about styling, the craft, the creativity. I remember there was one shoot that was for ID magazine. We got invited to go to the Puma warehouse to grab all these like off-season stocks. We went into the warehouse, took a lot of stock, and went back to her house and started chopping up all the pieces and put it back together. I was the one who was sewing, she was the one who was pinning, and turned them into like these figure-hugging dresses and then like jumpsuit. At that time, like I was blown away by the creativity. I thought, wow, styling is so much more creative than being a fashion designer in a way. So I was hooked, and that was maybe 20 years ago. I'm still styling after so many years, and I'm still in love with it.
I understand that fashion runs in your family too. Your mother was also in the industry. So tell me, what was it like growing up with such heavy fashion influence?
I knew I wanted to be in fashion, and ever since I was around 10 years old, and that for sure was heavily influenced by my mom. My mom was a buyer for Jean Paul Gaultier, and she was one of the people who brought the brand to Hong Kong during the early 90s. I still remember clearly that my mom would bring back all these Jean Paul Gaultier clothes for her and my dad. And then my sister and I would wear Junior Gaultier, which is the second line of Gaultier. Till now, I'm still so mad at myself that I didn't keep any Junior Gaultier because the brand doesn't exist anymore. Imagine like the old Hong Kong, and then like my mom and dad, my sister and I would walk around the old Hong Kong in like decked out Gaultier. Like just that vision is like, wow. So I knew at a very young age that I wanted to be in fashion. And my mom, she had her own brand at that time. So she used to bring me to her shows. And then I remember, Jamie and I, my sister and I would hang out at restaurants with a lot of fashion people. So that world has always been very fascinating to me.
Wow, it's fascinating to imagine just growing up in that atmosphere surrounded by fashion. And it's really amazing how these early influences really stay with us. You've clearly had a very successful career in styling. I've seen you in magazines, which makes me very curious. Was becoming a founder always part of the plan?
No, definitely not. I've always wanted to be a fashion designer. mostly because I thought in fashion, that's the only job that's available. And actually in 2012, I started a kidswear brand. It's called A for Apple. I met my previous business partner. He's a kidswear manufacturer, and then we really hit it off. And the next thing I know, we came up with the name, and then next thing is the collection, and then we were doing trade shows. But the brand really took off when we did a collaboration with Opening Ceremony. That's when Barney's picked it up. A lot of really cool stores in America picked it up. Yeah, but at the same time, like I knew after 2 years in that really wasn't my passion. So I stopped doing it and then slowly evolved into doing some freelance work with redress. That's when I really touch onto like the sustainability world. Yeah, from that I really learned about, the supply chain and what is sustainability is about from like the NGO point of view, right? So I started another brand called Naughty. And so first of all, I wanted to start something that is slow fashion, and also I wanted to do a social impact sort of brand. So I went around calling all these women's centers in Hong Kong, looking for ladies from low-income family. I remember I called around 20, only 2 of them replied to me, and then I went there. And I started having these very small knitting classes with 4 or 5 women. And once they get the hang of it, I hired them to knit my pattern and created these really beautiful one-of-a-kind sweaters. So I remember I did a project with Lane Crawford with a brand called Mayette. That was definitely still one of the beautiful projects that kept really close to my heart. But obviously that wasn't a very sustainable business because it takes 30 hours to do one sweater. And I even flew to India to figure out, whether I could put it into scale. But I don't know, at that time, I just did not have the right team. I did not have the right people on board. I just couldn't picture myself doing it in the very long term. So so I put it on pause. Plus, I got pregnant and I couldn't smell wool anymore. So to answer to your question, no, not in the beginning. But I slowly feel like, I have that bug, wanted to be an entrepreneur. I love product. I love branding. So, and it's kind of evolved into something that's bigger and bigger to me.
So you're actually a serial entrepreneur.
I guess so. Yeah, I'm a bit of a doer. If I put my heart into something, I get into this obsessive mode, and then I just want to get it started. And I think I'd have that fire in me for sure.
Yeah, and I love that the impact is actually a serious part of like your venture in Naughty and obviously in KITDO, where we're going to talk about. Do you remember that moment that led you to KITDO?
There's definitely a lot of aha moments to create KITDO, but my big one was being a stylist on set for so long. And then you have no idea the amount of samples that I have ripped through using the safety pin. So safety pin is pretty much an essential in all like stylist kit. I'm not sure whether you're familiar with the stylist kit. It's usually like a little, either a toolbox or like a little pouch that is full of all these little tools that stylists use in order to, work with the clothes and reshape it, make sure everything fits or things doesn't fly around everywhere and things like that. So in my stylist kit, for example, I would have fishing wires. I would have these like crazy hardware clamps that's made of heavy metals. Because sometimes with gowns, like, once you crunch them up, especially in like a brocade or thicker fabric, like you need like a wide enough clip to like hold everything in place. So I have these these hardware shop kind of clamps. And then I have obviously the usual like double-sided tape, weak ones and strong ones. I have all these different kind of pins, but the essential thing that you have is safety pins, right? All stylists have that. It's all in different sizes. You have these tiny little baby ones, and it comes in like these, like even up to this big. So we use them, and because it is the quickest way to resize your clothes. But the amount of samples that I've ruined through using safety pin is like I can't even tell you like how many incidents that once we start, let's say pinning a chiffon dress, and then the models start posing and doing all these extravagant gestures, and then the whole just start ripping and ripping and ripping. Yeah, and I'm talking about these like thousands of dollars of gowns. I just always wondered like how come stylists are still using this when I just don't find them very user friendly.
Yeah. That's interesting. Very acute observation, and also just a frustration of like this doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah.
Led
I
you
know,
to
it
creating.
feels so annoying. Yeah.
Now that we have a bit of your background, of your family, fashion influence, and also your design journey, let's talk about KITDO in more detail. I have a favorite question that I ask all founder. If you have only 30 seconds to describe KITDO, your brand, what would it be? How would you describe it?
30 seconds.
Yes, starting now.
Okay, KITDO is an accessory that create endless possibility for your clothes. It's actually made with very lightweight aluminium shaped in an organic piece. And then what's interesting about it is like it's got this 2-hole detail with a very strong magnet insert, which allows you to loop, to bond, and also clinch fabrics together. Our vision has always been, make KITDO into a key accessory for the next generation of fashionistas. We see them thriving on sharing and also celebrating each other's creativity and also self-expression.
I love this. I'm actually wearing it right now. This is such an elegant solution. There is the functionality of transforming clothes, but also the aesthetic. And sometimes the best innovation actually comes from really looking at a problem that others have overlooked. Like you mentioned, every stylist in their kit, they have the safety pin, they've been using it, but you are the person who's like, there's a better way. So looking at the day-to-day headache with a fresh pair of lens is what I think is the magical superpower of founder. And yeah, that aha moment you share is pretty amazing.
I love how you put it because it is a very good way to discover an innovative product, I would say. I feel like it's easier also for the founder to talk about the story. Product these days, it really requires a personal touch. If it is a product that came from a problem that a founder has, she's not really afraid to, constantly talk about it because it's from her personal experience. I think that's super important.
Okay, I know that you actually have some KITDO with you. Why don't you show us how we use it?
For sure, yeah. So I have the big size one, which is the original. So what you do is it's a 2-piece accessory. So you just slide it open because it's got these really strong magnet inserts. So you can't technically just yank it. You have to slide it. So what you do is for example, I'm gonna hide my necklace. I'm wearing this V-neck and you might think that is a bit too low. So you can close it and just put this piece here and just put this one. You can sort of close it. Yeah, so it becomes sort of resize neckline, or you can, okay, I'm gonna stand up for a little bit. So let's say this dress is a little shapeless, and then you can loop it like this, and then you can just loop it through, but leave this little piece of fabric right there, and then you use the other piece and just put it there. See? Yeah. So yeah, and then it's great with scarves. So I've got this random piece of extra piece of neckline fabric here, and then you can just maybe go like this. I can even put it under my shirt so it doesn't get wobbly, and then yeah, something like that.
I know that when you're creating KITDO, you really want something that is beautiful but also functional. So you've actually gone through quite a lot of prototype. I know that. What are the biggest challenges in creating this beautiful piece right here?
Talking of prototype, I wanted to show you because you were asking me about it. Yes, so that was my first prototype. Yeah. So, I guess this was my biggest challenge in the sense that because my background has always been clothes and, fabrics and things like that. So, so I guess my entry to start was very challenging. I need to turn into something more visual because I'm such a visual person. So I went down to the stationery store and I got some clay and did this. I have two of these. One is missing right now. But yeah, I just started looping fabric and start playing. And it was during COVID too, so there was no better time to do it. And the more I played, the more I was like, oh, this could be something interesting. And that's when I evolved into, a version of this, but bigger and maybe two holes so fabrics can loop through. And it's just start like playing and just, spending a time into finding a sample that I hope the manufacturer will understand. Obviously he did not. He was just like, what is this? Yeah, so there was a lot of like R&D process that went through it. Yeah, but at that time, I wasn't even thinking about, it's gonna look like this right now, I could not imagine. It was just, yeah, it gets me really emotional just think about it because
Aww.
yeah, it was a very, trip down memory lane, definitely.
You mentioned going to the factory and talking to people. That's, I think, one of the greatest challenge for a founder trying to develop something that is not exist before. People haven't seen it before. So you have to have a very strong vision and almost like relentless pursuit of quality.
Yeah, I think I heard it the other day, which was from Sarah Blakely from Spangs. She says something along the line of like, if you are creating a product from an industry that you're not familiar with, you are disrupting the industry. And I thought that was really well put in the sense that because you didn't come from that world and then, coming in to work within that industry with a blank mindset, right? That kind of gives you a very fresh take into that particular industry, and you will create something that will for sure be disruptive. That was really, really well put and interesting because that's pretty much me, right? Like I had no idea about the accessory industry, and I just came in making these like little clay mold, and then yeah, I'm sure no one does it that way, right? So yeah, I thought that was really good.
There are so many ways you can talk about KITDO. You can position KITDO because it's such a versatile piece. One of which is obviously the sustainability angle that you mentioned before. So tell me your strategic approach to communicating or positioning KITDO. Why have you chosen to talk about it in a certain way and not other?
Actually, after Naughty, I was working with a sustainable brand, and the brand came from an NGO. So from that experience, I was really deep dive into that sustainability world. I was even sleeping in factory, trying to figure out how to do zero waste. And the outcome of that is very difficult to be fully sustainable. I think the most sustainable thing is don't buy anything new and don't make anything new. When I put KITDO all together, the sustainability story is there because at the end of the day, we are encouraging people to work with the clothes they already have. It's about creating new instead of buying new. So I knew the DNA of the brand will be very sustainable already. Like I don't need to talk much about it and not overflow with information basically. And marketing wise, it just doesn't work. And also we're touching on this industry that is at the end of the day is about dreaming, fantasy, looking sexy and things like that. So I would definitely find the right language that the customer will understand and will accept the brand a little bit more. But without losing the sustainability language 100%. Yeah. But yeah, you just have to do it in a very delicate way, I feel.
I remember having this conversation with you previously in Soho House, and I just find it such a smart approach because it's very easy to take the sustainability angle. A lot of people are talking about it, and it's very easy to think, oh, yeah, I can just follow that angle. But I love how you go back to the product itself and the target audience. People who are going to use KITDO are people who care about whether they're stylish or not, and then they want to be cool. And in order to drive these change of being sustainable later on, you have to maybe start with a different angle to increase adoption or make it a more desirable product to drive change. So
Yeah, but also like if you look at social media, there are people already doing it, right? Like they find all these different ways to rewear the clothes over and over again, but they do it in a way without mentioning that, oh, I'm trying to be sustainable. That's the language that they're trying to say. I think that route is definitely more smart, and I think a lot of brands can follow that sort of like language.
you've mentioned in one of your interviews a very interesting statistic that people only typically wear 10 to 20% of their wardrobe, which I actually went to my wardrobe and look at what I have. And I personally concur. Tell me more about that insight and tell me how KITDO play onto that insight as well.
Yeah, you're totally right. Because of the brand, I obviously wanted to do the research. So I came upon all these statistics, and one of them that really shocked me, we're only wearing 10 to 20% of our own wardrobe. So after I heard that, I did the same thing that you did. I did a wardrobe audit, and I suggest everyone to do this because it is a very eye-opening thing. Me myself, guilty as charged. I found that I have maybe 20 pair of jeans, and that I wear only two. Black pants, like maybe 15, I only wear like one. Yeah, so I also started to, I guess, have like a little bit of an internal meditation on like, okay, why am I not wearing these pieces? There were pieces that were really old that, after all these wash, the shape kind of like became a bit wobbly. Some of them are actually not wearable, but at the end of the day I think is that concept in my head that's like, okay, this is old, I don't want to wear. I started to think about like, how do I make my clothes new again? When I'm on set, I would sometimes, because of color, I would bring these old clothes on set. Let's say they want me to put this purple outfit together, right? Okay, but then I couldn't get any purple shirt from the PR, so I'll grab something from my house and sort of like slot it in. But that purple shirt not necessarily looks really new, so I would do a lot of clamming and clipping and taping so that it will fit into the shape that is modern again. So that's when I thought a product or an accessory that has a function of these clip will work, because it really does give you that inject of newness when you do something to your clothes. And I find that concept very fascinating and very useful, to be honest. Like I do, I have pieces that is sitting in my wardrobe for so long that I'm now wearing because I have the product.
Yeah, I find it really fun too. It's kind of like a treasure hunt now. So you can go back to your wardrobe and say, okay, what if like this part, you can pinch it and then change the shape a little bit and you kind of like have a new piece again. Now it's almost year 4 for KITDO, right?
Yeah.
Getting into,
Wow, that
yeah.
that really flew by quick. Yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned social media. I know you guys are very active and partner with quite a lot of people. So I would love to hear about any of the feedback that you've received so far. What are the most memorable ones? It can be from social media, it can be from people who are buying your product.
I guess obviously, like what you said is like our dream come true, right? Like the fact that our customers are going back to their wardrobe, reshaping the clothes that they already have. That's like my greatest joy when I hear it, right? And I remember there were times when I was in London, we were shooting on the street with the product, and someone stopped, be like, wait, I know that product. And that's when I cried. Given that the how I discovered the product to like actually rolling out in the market, and for people on the street to recognize it, I think for me that's like I would never imagine that would happen. Yeah, that was definitely one of the moments that was I felt very grateful for. Yeah, and winning awards that we won like around 5 international design award last year. Yeah, so that was pretty amazing. Like being a stylist, I would have never thought that I would go on stage in Italy and got like a design award for this little piece of product that I came up with. So yeah, I cannot count how many exactly moments. There's just too many. There's so many.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Is it easy to say single-minded and focus on just one product? Has there been any challenges or like thoughts about, oh, should we expand? Should we do different things?
Yeah, constantly. I mean, like we're surrounded by people pushing us to, you know, do more products, and we chose to do e-commerce mostly. Everything is within our control. We're not forced to, produce more styles, so I'm quite grateful for that. But I do think having one product has its advantages just because you can really perfect the product. You still have a lot of space to tweak and make sure everything is better than before. For example, we're going through our third round of rebranding right now. I feel very proud of that. I know that the next one it will be better, and that's what we thrive for. Yeah, so I think there's nothing wrong with, having one singular product as long as you have a very, very strong product and everything that goes around the product, which is the company itself, is very intact and strong.
So you mentioned rebranding. What sparked that thought? What makes you say, oh, actually, I want to look at refreshing our look?
That's a really good question, by the way. We're collecting a lot of feedback from our customers and also from our community. And then there's definitely a lot of rooms of improvement. We are working heavily on our branding right now. I'm not talking about just about logo, but the story. Last year, I spent a lot of time just work on proof of concept, make sure the product is on the right people and really drive sales and make sure our sales are going smoothly. We have orders every day. Everything is quite steady. There wasn't enough work on the branding side, especially now, we have a big group of community and also we have a big customer base. That means we are at the position right now, they're like, okay, right, who are our customers exactly, right? And also from these customers, how does it trigger down to I'll translate that into our branding stories, because that's our biggest asset. And I really want to put in time and make sure that is perfect before we start scaling.
We're looking ahead now because you mentioned scaling. So I heard you are expanding into Europe and trying to tap the market over there. So tell me, what are the opportunities right now? What are the challenges in this new market?
Extending to another market has always been something that we talked about because we spend most of our time focusing on the US, the people that we seed or the people that we invite to do content for us are mostly based in US. But there's actually a lot of organic sales coming from Europe. So immediately we knew that there's an appetite, right, for a product like KITDO. I actually went to Europe a few months ago. I went to Paris and Berlin and realized that the way that people are using KITDO is quite different in very different demographic. The challenge is logistic. So if you talk to any e-commerce companies, there's always shipping to Europe. It can be a headache. I think the language too. We do ads or also produce any kind of content, let's say newsletter or something like that. That's just the little works here and there that we need to work on. But Europe is definitely a good market for us. I went to Berlin and I was so amazed with how people were using KITDO.
That's very exciting. And also it proves that sometimes even when you are the creator of a product, you can't fully predict when it gets out to the market how it's being used as well. I think that's fascinating. Now, many of our listeners are aspiring entrepreneurs themselves, so you've created a very successful product. If you were to give some advice to other founders who are also trying to solve, everyday problem through design, what would you say to them?
I think first is do your research. Make sure you're entering a niche market is very, very crucial. Design-wise, obviously keep it simple. I think consumers are quite impatient. And, if you ask them to do this and that, sometimes it can be challenging. Another one that I was thinking is to expect change. For example, KITDO, right? We're going through the third round of rebranding. The world is moving so fast. So you kind of need to evolve together with that kind of speed. And embracing change, I think that was a big thing for me to see that as a positive thing. Oh, and one thing that really helped us when we were developing the product is that we were doing a lot of focus groups. That really helped us to make sure we are on the right track. It's so interesting to create these focus group targeting a very different demographic and also ask the right questions. I think that was very, very helpful for us. And of course, do your finance right. As a founder, you have bills coming in from everywhere. Having a bookkeeper is always really useful. And yeah, just do things really leanly. Like, so what I see a lot of founders, what happens is that, they get a bit excited, and started like spending monies on like here and there. And I think, there's a lot of things that I paid for in the very beginning of KITDO that I wish I didn't. We keeping things super lean right now. All our shoots are done with like, just like 2 or 3 people sometimes. I would say that's like a very good advice as like an entrepreneur, of a starter that has an innovative product for sure.
So customer research, keep it simple,
Yep.
embracing change, and
Yeah.
take care of your finance.
Take care of your finance and do
Wonderful.
focus groups.
Do focus groups.
Yeah,
Yes.
I guess that's part of research. Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground today. Before we
Yay.
wrap up, this is my second favorite question because it's an exciting one. What is next for KITDO, and what excites you the most about KITDO's future?
Well, 2025 is a big year for us. As mentioned, the rebrand, which I'm really excited about. You'll be seeing a lot of, KITDO with new packaging, new visuals, new language. And also I mentioned to you that we're scaling, right? Like, so that's the business part. We have lined up a really good manufacturer that is able to lower the cost. We partner up with a really good marketer, so we will be scaling hopefully in like Q1. So I'm quite excited about that. That's the business part. But for me personally is all these projects that I have in mind circulating in my brain might be finally coming into flourish in 2025. Yeah, that's the part that excites me so much. Yeah, doing all the projects that I love, connecting with our community, and then connecting with creatives. So, 2025, you'll be seeing a lot of exciting things, a lot of collaboration. So I'm excited, very excited.
Everyone stay tuned to the latest from KITDO. Denise, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us today. It's really inspiring to see how you've used the power of design to turn, a bit of a styling headache and a pain point to something really elegant, simple, and game-changing. I'm sure your story will inspire a lot of aspiring founders. So thank you for joining us today.
No, thank you so much. This was really fun.